Good morning, everybody. Welcome and hello. My name is Ivan Stegic, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me to give the keynote. I want to start by talking a little bit about my history, and so you can understand where this talk is coming from. I grew up in Johannesburg in South Africa in the 80s and 90s, and that was the height of apartheid in South Africa. And so that formulates, or it gives me a certain perspective on the world that we all have. And I went to school there too. I went to Wits University. I majored in physics and in psychology, so my background is both left brain and right brain. And as most people outside of the United States, there are dreams of America everywhere, thanks to the global pervasive media that came out of the United States. And honestly, the idea of America. And that's something that is sort of central to the talk that I'm giving today as well. I was lucky enough to become a Honeywell futurist. I applied for this competition. I did kind of well, and they invited me to become a research associate at Honeywell in Minneapolis. And you can imagine what that's like for someone who grew up outside of the United States to be dreaming about coming to the United States and then to actually achieve that. It's like, wow, this dream, this myth that exists, I'm sort of going to be a part of that. So I came to the United States in 1999. I ended up working at Honeywell for a couple of years, and I ended up settling in Minneapolis in Minnesota. And there's our fair city. I've been there since 1999, and right at the end of that arrow point is exactly where I live right now. And while I was at Honeywell, I was at the Honeywell Technology Center in Plymouth, and I was working on microsensors. I had a colleague that moved to Imation. They had spun off of 3M, and she invited me to think about maybe joining the team at Imation at the Optical Technology Center. And the thing that was attractive was, again, another myth. This idea that I could contribute to the future of technology in the United States by participating in this little thing called data play that never made it, thanks iPod, but it was a 1 gigabyte, 25 millimeter optical disc that I had an opportunity to work on. So I followed that myth too. And I'd been there for about 5 years when another opportunity presented itself, and it sounded kind of cool. It would be a startup. So I followed that, and I started working for a startup in downtown Minneapolis. I spent 2 years there. Sadly, it was a dumpster fire. And it was not what I had hoped it would be. Of course, it was a startup. I got a very quick crash course in tech bro culture. I saw everything there was to be seen about how not to be a team. There was no shared vision between any of the people I worked with or with leadership. There was a lack of clarity, and people were pulling in all directions, which meant that we weren't going anywhere. And after working 50 to 60 hours every week with 2 newborns, I basically burned out. And I had to stop doing what I was doing. And I realized that I can only control myself and not the people around me or the things they do. And I looked for my own kind of serenity. And in 2007, I started 10-7. Our mission is to make things that matter. We have a set of core values that underpin our mission. Be honest, We always tell the truth. Be inclusive. We believe that our diversity and collective differences actually make us stronger. So it's be inclusive on the team, but also be inclusive in the community. Be open. We think that openness encourages trust, that transparency makes us stronger. We want to be open with each other, and we want to contribute to open source as well. Be mindful. We're mindful of all our needs. We think that it feeds our empathy. And our fifth value is be a team. And that's self-explanatory. And it comes from experiencing of how not to be a team in my previous job. We promise to always lead with empathy. And the thing we do is we are a digital agency that builds, rescues, and cares for Drupal sites. So now you know a little bit about my history and the company that I run. Here are the wonderful people I get to work with every day. But you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, so how does this actually apply to me? I don't really care about your mission. I'm here for the Higher Ed Summit. What I want to talk about is teams and the chaos and frustration that could be a part of your daily life and how you might be able to move to clarity. So we all work on teams every single day. You're either on Team FAM at home, or maybe you're a part of a development team, or a design team. Maybe you're in marketing. Maybe you're on a sports team and you're playing soccer or football or some other sports ball. Each one of these things have a certain dynamic. Some are good, a few are great. Some are dangerous and toxic. Most are meh, and you probably don't think about the teams. But what's the one thing that connects a good team? A team that has purpose and vision. The thing that connects all of the good teams that I've been a part of has been the clarity of purpose, where leaders have a clear understanding of what they're trying to achieve and how they will achieve it. And I'd like to suggest that there are 5 tenets or principles to getting to that level of clarity on a team. I think you have to have a myth. I think you need to talk about the myth. I think you need to find the overlaps of your myth with the clients that you serve. Then I think you need to do the actual work. And then I think you need to repeat this process, because it's not a stagnant thing. You can start and set it and forget it. You have to keep repeating the work that you're doing. So let me talk about what I mean by having a myth. There's this great book called Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. Have any of you read it? It's about the history of humankind. Basically, Harari's book says the thing that sets us apart from animals is this idea that we have the ability to believe in and share an imagined reality. So we can talk about ideas and we can corral around them, and this lets us dominate the planet. And I just want to talk about the word myth here for a sec. It's not supposed to denote a falsehood. It's supposed to denote a shared belief. Stories that form the foundation of human societies, myths that can be either beneficial or harmful, but their role is in facilitating large cooperation. And you can see that at a very high level in civilizations, but you can also see it in small teams as well. So if you haven't read this book, I'd encourage you to think about picking it up. And the thing that we corral around the myth needs to have a good reason for doing that. There's a book called Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And he said something that summarizes this book in a simple sentence. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And the book explores how great leaders inspire people to take action by communicating that why. The purpose, the cause, the belief in that myth that a team can corral around. Think different. Apple. That's their myth. Occupy Mars. Does anyone know where that started? SpaceX. Spread ideas. That's TED. And Earth is now our only shareholder. Does anyone know that one? That's Patagonia. The myth that each of these companies has is the story of why, how, and what. And the reason I went through explaining a little bit about 10.7 is to illustrate that. This is our why. This is our mission, to make things that matter. These values, these are how we achieve our mission. And the promise we make to lead with empathy, that's also how we achieve our mission. And this thing that I said we do, that's the what. So all of these things put together is the story of your myth, but it also allows you to give your team the clarity of purpose so that you're all going in the same direction with the same motivation. The weird thing about this is that scale doesn't matter. So you could be a team of 2 or 3 or 10. It could be a department of 30 or a company of 50. It could be a civilization. It could be a state. The scale doesn't matter. You can apply it at all scales. So that's the idea behind a myth. Once you have a myth and you've figured out where you're going and you have the clarity of purpose, you need to talk about it a lot. This is Jeff Robbins. He's a friend and mentor. He's often said to me, Ivan, your mission is like a leaky bucket. You have to keep filling it. And what he means by that is you can't talk about your mission once and forget about it. People forget. They need to hear you talk about the myth all the time, as much as possible, until it becomes second nature for yourself and second nature for your team. And once you've decided you've talked about it enough, you need to talk about it some more. And you need to do it in many different places. During meetings, so if you have a quarterly company all hands, talk about it there. Talk about it in department and group meetings, in your weekly staff meeting, in your one-on-ones, with your leadership team. And not only should you be talking about it, you should be infusing it in the different spaces that you and your team are in Slack, in Teams, whatever communication, business communication platform you use. Put it in your email signature, put it in slide decks, put it in celebrations. When you do the work and you celebrate the work that you've been doing with your team, talk about how it connects to your values. Put it on posters, on your business cards, and remember that it's a leaky bucket. Always be filling. And you also have to stay classy. You can't be overt about it. You have to be authentic about it. As a leader, you have to actually believe the mission. That's the only way it's going to be authentic. And with that repetition, you will suddenly start to have clarity about what your purpose and what your mission is. Okay, so have a myth, talk about it, and then find the overlaps. What do I mean by that? It's one thing to have a mission of your own, but it's another thing to actually put it in action with clients and with people you actually work with on a daily basis. So think about how your myth is compatible with your client's myth, whether those are people sending email to your support desk, whether they are clients you have a business relationship with, whatever they are. Think about where the overlap is. Think about where you're similar. Not the same, you're not going to be the same, but think about where you're similar. So one of our clients is Second Harvest Heartland. Their mission or their myth is to make sure that no one goes hungry. So how do we think about this client? Well, from my perspective, from our team's perspective, we know that food insecurity affects almost 50 million people in the United States. That makes us feel really good about building and supporting a site that matters. And that's our mission, to make things that matter. This site is going to matter to them and to the 50 million people that have food insecurity. That's the overlap. Our client, Animal Humane Society, they want to create a more humane world for animals. Well, treating animals humanely reflects our values as a society, and that matters to us as a team. That's the easy overlap for us. Easter Seals of Southern California, they want to change the way that people view disability and to create a more inclusive society. Well, one of our values happens to be inclusive. So we get to live their mission in our mission every day. And what I'd like to challenge you all to do is to think about how you relate to your team, however large it is. Where are the overlaps that you see with your purpose and your mission in the clients that you serve? How does this affect the staff that you have and the way they see the impact of their work in their day-to-day? How does your IT support team find the value in the work they do and how it overlaps with the support desk tickets that people submit to you? How do your devs feel? How does marketing feel? How does design feel? How do your administrative staff feel? Everyone on the team is a valid member. It's not just devs or just designers. We should all be in tune with and have some sort of skin in the game when it comes to the mission of our team and our organization. Okay, so you have a myth. You've talked about it. You've found the overlaps. Now it's time to actually do the work. It's time to get down to business. And the honest truth here is that you can only control yourself, especially when you're doing the work. You don't have the ability to control the outside world. You can't control the distractions. You can't control the noise that you experience. But you can certainly control yourself, which means you can turn up the signal. You can focus on what you can do and how you might be able to influence the microcosm of the team around you. And when you're doing that, make sure you practice self-care, because nobody else is going to do that either. You have to look after yourself and be kind to yourself while you're doing this work with your clients and with your team. And as I said earlier, increase the signal to noise. Ignore the distractions and the noise that's out there, and control the things you can control. Remember the purpose of your mission. Remember the purpose and the clarity that you get by enunciating that mission and talking about the values that you have. And don't forget to celebrate. Celebration is really important in trying to get your mission and your values to be more infused in the work that you do every day. Consider having a dedicated space to celebrate achievements and work that happens. We have a celebrations channel at 10/7. It's kind of simple, but when the good things happen, people celebrate each other, whether it's a personal thing or a project or an accomplishment by a team. And every time we do that, we try to connect it back to the mission and to the values and to the myth that we're creating as a team. It's nice to see your daily work be celebrated and somehow to be able to draw a line from that thing to the work that the vision of the company or the vision of the team has. And it's a bonus if the leader, if you are not the one doing it as well. Oh, that was one too far. There you go. So there's our celebrations channel. Megan congratulated someone and a team and celebrated the work that they did. It's amazing to see other people talk about the things that you've been talking about when you're leading a team. You know that your myth has roots if others are using the same words that you're using on a daily basis. So now that we've done the work, the job is to repeat. And usually that job is the leader's job. So it's my job to repeat this whole thing. You want to check in with your myth every now and again. You want to make sure that your myth is still valid, that your mission is still what you want it to be. It's good to take a temperature check every now and again. You want to keep talking about the myth. The more you talk about it, the more you will hone it, the more you will tweak it. And you want to continue looking for new overlaps, not just for new clients, but for new ways of thinking about existing clients, existing teammates, and what they're doing and how you might be able to overlap what you're doing with them. And then you have to do the work again. You have to spend the time in self-care. You have to spend the time actually with boots on the ground. And then you have to repeat. It's not something that you can set and forget. I've said that before. It's like a leaky bucket. You have to keep filling it so that the mission takes hold. You have to continue to repeat. Repetition helps to hone your myth until it becomes second nature, not just for you, but for your team as well. You want a team to know where they're going, how they're going to get there, but most importantly, you want them to know why. That's where the clarity comes from. Why are we doing this? So in summary, we're going to list them all out again. Have a myth, talk about it, find the overlaps, do the work, and repeat. And that'll take you from frustration and chaos to clarity. And the last slide here is a summary. The path from frustration to clarity has 5 simple tenets. Create a myth that gives your team purpose. Talk about it authentically and search for ways to share it broadly. Do the work and then do it again. And with that, I'd love to thank you. My gratitude to everyone that's organized this camp, to the volunteers, to the audience, to all my old friends, and to any new ones that I will be making. I realize I flew through this and that it's not even an hour, but I think that's okay. And I'd love to open it up to questions or comments.